Alright guys, we've got some big updates when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 and what we can expect to see not only this year, but also next year in 2026. So let's go ahead and jump right into it with something from Nate the Hate. He talked about this on Reddit. There was a post that talked about the mysterious 3 games with 7 in the title that's upcoming at the next Nintendo Direct that should be announced this week. And Nate the Hate actually responded to this comment because the person was predicting Call of Duty Black Ops 7, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, and Ace Attorney 7. Nate the Hate jumps in and says, Rebirth is coming to Switch 2 and Xbox in 2026, so you'll get your answer as to how it runs on Switch 2 next year. With some well-utilized DLSS, Square Enix can deliver Rebirth on Switch 2. So that's one of the things that people have been asking about is like, wait a minute, hold up. This game had issues even on the PlayStation 5 when it launched back in 2024. How are they going to get it looking and running good on the Nintendo Switch 2? And it's the same thing that people have been talking about for quite some time now when it comes to Nintendo fans or people that know the technology of the Switch 2, is that they're going to utilize DLSS, they're going to cut the frame rate to 30, and they're going to try to lock in. They're going to do little techniques, little tricks, they're going to make little cuts and little types of things here and there in order to get it going at a stable 30 FPS and just lock it in there so there's not any issues. Now, some people have talked about, well, wait a minute, why can't they get it at 40 or why can't they get it at 60? And obviously, Switch 2 is not as strong as a PlayStation 5 Pro or as a high-end graphics card or as an Xbox Series X. So you're probably not going to get that because of the hybrid nature of the system. It's the same reason why you can't get Final Fantasy VII Rebirth running at 60 FPS on a Steam Deck, no problem, no dips, or anything like that. It's tougher and more difficult when you're talking about a hybrid type of device overall and not a big box with a big graphics card in there. So you also have to keep that in mind. But once again, you do get the added portability factor of it. And as long as it runs stable, I think fans are going to be okay with that. We're seeing what's happening with Star Wars Outlaws on the Nintendo Switch 2 and how people are really enjoying that. It's a super high effort port of the game. And the biggest thing about that is that people have these same questions when it comes to Rebirth or some of these other graphically intense games that are on Xbox and PlayStation. How is it going to work on the Nintendo Switch 2? Well, Ubisoft has shown us it's going to work just fine because that game with Star Wars Outlaws actually runs a bit better and looks a bit sharper at times in certain areas on the Nintendo Switch 2 over the Xbox Series S. More modern architecture, you've got DLSS, you've got other little things that you can do to help out with the game. I think they're going to do the exact same thing here with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as Nate the Hate has noted overall. And that's something that I said that they're going to do from the beginning when I saw people saying that there's no way they can get this game running. And I'm like, you guys aren't developers. You guys don't have dev kits. Stop making up things that you don't know anything about overall. Wait and see. Let the developers put in the work. Let them cook on a few different things. And then we can judge. And then we can evaluate. But I'm so glad that Ubisoft actually made Star Wars Outlaws on the Nintendo Switch 2 and actually put real effort and time into it to prove and to show that the Switch 2 can do that, because we all knew beforehand that it could, but we needed a real world example from a game that's not on the PlayStation 4 already, or that wasn't downported in some type of way. So that's what Star Wars Outlaws has provided, and they've put in a bunch of patches and work to the game, so it's better than what it was when it launched last year originally on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and the PC. So all of those patches and updates are now available on all platforms with cloud saves, so you can transfer back and forth. I think that people are really excited about getting back into that game, and it's given it a little bit of a second life. So overall, I think that the DLSS, it's going to come through. Square Enix is going to come through here. They've got a solid port of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade that's coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. So we'll see if one of these games that are announced is not only Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, but also Final Fantasy VII Rebirth overall. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but it's something that Square Enix has done before at a Nintendo Direct, where they actually announced multiple Final Fantasy projects, which they did that in the Switch 1 era. So we'll see what happens there. But what are your thoughts when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and what's happening here with this game with DLSS and Square Enix bringing it over? According to Nate the Hate, but pretty much Square Enix already stated that they're going to be doing that. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Before we get into the next topic, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos as soon as they drop. But let's go ahead and jump into the next topic here, and this one is big because now Dusk Golem is stating that all Resident Evil games are coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, which is something that I've been saying is going to happen. And of course, we're going to talk about Resident Evil 4 Remake, because I think that is the huge one, along with, of course, Resident Evil Requiem or Resident Evil 9. So shout outs to Dusk Golem, and he says this, quote, all the Resident Evil RE Engine games are coming to Switch 2, as one might expect. Them coming, I know for a fact, but this next part is now my own conjecture. I'm guessing they're lining up a number of the Switch 2 ports and those PS5 versions of various RE games rated within the last year as part of their 30th anniversary celebration stuff. But that's a guess on my side. Them happening is not, though. Dusk Golem, who's been noted for having Capcom leaks and Resident Evil leaks and everything, he's been pretty good with that. He's stating that they're all coming. I've also seen other people under his post talk about how, yeah, other RE games are coming. So they're hearing that. Now, this is something that to me was obvious was going to happen. If you look at the Nintendo Switch 1, I talked about this before, there were a lot of Resident Evil games on Switch 1. They even did cloud versions of the Resident Evil games that they couldn't port over natively because the system power. Now that Nintendo has a much more powerful system than with the Switch 1, and of course the architecture and DLSS and other different things to get these more powerful games adapted, looking good, and running decent enough on the platform, I think you're going to see the floodgates open when it comes to Resident Evil, because they wanted to do more on the Nintendo Switch 1. The Resident Evil games on Switch 1 sold really well, so I would fully expect for them to bring over all these different games. Now, the big games that we're talking about here, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil 4 Remake. You also have Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, and the newest one, Resident Evil Requiem or Resident Evil 9. Those are 6 titles that I think that will be peppered in or spread throughout somewhat of the first couple years of the Nintendo Switch 2, or maybe they just release a lot of them. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to distribute it, but I do know that I want to play Resident Evil 4 Remake on the Nintendo Switch 2 again. I already played and beat the game on the PlayStation 5. It is fantastic, but a portable version to casually play, because it's my favorite Resident Evil game of all time, by far my favorite Resident Evil game. I've got to have that. I really want to check that out. Now remember, these games are also on PlayStation 4. That's one thing that people kind of forget or don't realize. Outside of Resident Evil Requiem, although there are some rumors from Dusk Golem saying that they are going to bring Resident Evil Requiem to the PlayStation 4, so we'll see about that. But all these games are also on PlayStation 4, and they don't run terrible on PlayStation 4. Obviously not as good as PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series and high-end graphics cards, but they don't run like really bad or look really, really bad on PlayStation 4. So I do feel that this is going to look and run great on the Nintendo Switch 2 with Capcom on here. With Capcom, make sure that they get that RE engine lined up. And I know that they had a custom version of RE engine for the Nintendo Switch 1, but I'm not sure if it's that same one. I think that they might just be using the regular RE engine that they use for Xbox and PlayStation. So once again, I'm not sure. Or they might have made tweaks and then updated that engine when it comes to the custom one and then put that on the Nintendo Switch 2. So maybe they even get better performance out of the RE engine. But it's one of those things, like I said, I know it was coming. I think that it's going to be exciting to see different types of games. And I felt this way when they first showed off the Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes to the first Nintendo Direct that they had, and there was a number of games that you usually don't see on a Nintendo platform all of a sudden show up there and even get announced, like 007 First Light, for example. So what do you guys think about this when it comes down to it, with more Resident Evil essentially coming, which once again wasn't necessarily a crazy prediction or something that was going to happen, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys, we've got a Team Cherry patch when it comes to Hollow Knight Silksong. They're getting it ready. The patch is going to go live fairly soon here this week. So Team Cherry, when it comes down to it, they have listened to what some of the fans have stated, and they have nerfed some of the early game bosses and the amount of damage those bosses do. That's something that was a little bit of a minor controversy. You saw some people patch it out themselves, like a mod to patch out the difficulty of the game and the double damage that some of the bosses do and all that. So it seems like Team Cherry saw that and said, okay, we are going to patch that out ourselves. They also have a bunch of other updates and fixes and different type of stuff when it comes to certain things just not working right, or just not being corrected, or mechanics being messed up, or inputs, or just stuff like that. There's all sorts of things that they're actually changing from there. I'll have a snapshot up here for you guys. When I looked at it, or when I played the game, I never felt like it was too difficult when it comes down to it. It felt like just the right mix, because the thing about the game is that it's a 2D game, so really there's only a couple different ways that you can program a boss to attack you to where you know where you can go to be safe when it comes to a 2D game. So I'm not saying it's a skill issue from these people, but it almost kind of is like a skill issue from these people, because I'm not a super hardcore greatest gamer of all time, and yet I was able to get through those early bosses after really doing some trial and error and really just saying, okay, this is what they do when I go this way, or this is how I have to react. So I don't think that the early game bosses were too difficult, but once again, that's just my opinion overall. And this game has a mechanic to where you can recover health. You get your hits in, you can recover your health. It's not like it's a Metroid type of situation where you need to collect energy tanks and things like that. It's essentially that anytime that you get your hits in, after a bit, your health can regenerate. You can regenerate your health when you get the opportunity by pressing the A button. So to me, it wasn't really something that needed to be patched out. And once again, you can easily get your hits in and then, of course, recover when it comes down to it when you get a break in the attack pattern. So for me, I don't think they needed to do that. But you know what? Hey, look, it's an option. I do feel that that's why you should maybe have easy modes in there for people. Make the game that you want to make overall as like the normal or hard mode, and then say, hey, here's an easy mode for these people, so you don't have to waste your time patching it later and then affecting the whole game, because I don't think that they're making an easy mode or anything. So I think that you should just make the game that you want to make and then say, oh, here's the easy mode where bosses do like less damage or hits do less damage or whatever. And I think that that would have been great to where people don't have to kind of make their own easy mode on PC, or you have to take the time to do that now at this point. But it is what it is overall, guys. What do you think about this patch? Let me know in the comment section below. But now we're going to move on to the next topic here, and we got some demos that are going to be dropping when it comes to Star Wars Outlaws and Digimon Story. Two back-to-back demos. We're going to start off with Star Wars Outlaws, which is getting a lot of positive buzz from players out there with the updates, and of course the Nintendo Switch 2 version, how good of a conversion it is from what we saw on Xbox and PlayStation. Ubisoft did note in the patch notes that the demo will be available on the Nintendo Switch 2 later this year. We'll share more information soon, so look out for that. Maybe it gets a spot in the upcoming Nintendo Direct. Hey, look, try out the demo now, new trailer, probably not. But either way, yeah, that's pretty cool if they're going to be doing a demo. I think that this game would help with a demo as well, because people are unsure because of how it launched last year on Xbox and PlayStation. I still see people say a bunch of crazy things about the game now, despite all of those already being patched and fixed up last year on Xbox and PlayStation, or earlier this year. I'm not exactly sure when those were patched out when it comes to some of the stealth mechanics and the shooting and certain things that made the game not as enjoyable on Xbox and PlayStation at launch, but that stuff's been patched out for a while now, especially with the gold edition. So I think that a demo would definitely be good, because it plays good and it runs good on the Nintendo Switch 2. Next up with this demo, we're going to talk about Digimon Story Time Stranger. We got a big demo dropping on September 10th for PC, September 11th for PS5 and Xbox Series. So it's coming up pretty soon here. Bandai Namco and developer Media Vision behind this. So they did announce on Steam it'll be up at 3 p.m. PT, 6 p.m. ET. And right after that will be PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series midnight times on September 11th. Also, new hands-on previews for the game based off of 4 hours of playtime. They went live on 4Gamer, Bahama, and all sorts of other places. And it seems like people are enjoying the game overall. Digimon Story Time Stranger is due out for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC via Steam on October 3rd, and there is a rumor, which I do think that it's going to come true, that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be getting the version later, as well as the whole dev kit situation. Who knows what's going on? I don't know who the developer Media Vision is. I've never heard of them until now, and I'm pretty sure they probably developed other stuff for Bandai Namco. But yeah, Media Vision, they might get on that a bit later, like we've seen with some of the other games like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero for the Nintendo Switch 2, and even for the Switch 1 for that game. But I am expecting Digimon Story Time Stranger to come to Switch 2 later a bit, or maybe we'll see something announced soon here when it comes to a Nintendo Direct, or early next year. But either way, I think that this game is going to be fun to check out. I'm going to be playing it myself. I'm not a big Digimon fan. I didn't really watch the show growing up or anything like that, but this game actually looks like a really cool turn-based monster tamer type of RPG, and I do like those type of games, so I'll be checking it out and seeing how it is. But what do you guys think when it comes to Digimon Story Time Stranger? Also, the Star Wars Outlaws demo, and everything else that we talked about here, from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and the Resident Evil games going down, plus Hollow Knight Silksong? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.